All right, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining me. We'll go ahead and get started here. If you got your questions, you can post them. Should be below the video. If you're on a smaller screen like a phone, if you're on a larger screen like a computer, it should be to the right of the video. All right, so let's see if we got any questions in here. Let me refresh this just to make sure. First, I got to put in the password. Wouldn't want anybody getting on this page. Got to keep it secure. All right. Let's see here. Okay, so we got first question here from Dan A. It says, hey, Q, I find that my head's lunging towards the target when I start my downswing. Any drills you can recommend to help me keep my head back, at least until impact? Thanks. Yes, this is actually covered in the Stable and Fluid Spine course. There's actually a drill called the nose behind the ball drill, or nose behind the stick drill, I believe it's called. So basically, you take an alignment stick, and you can just go to the Timecodes system and see this. I'm just going to briefly go over it here, but if you want the full detailed video of the drill, you'll want to go to the Timecodes system. I'll tell you where you can go here in just a minute. But basically, the way that it would work is you would have an alignment stick that's roughly, you kind of be straddling it right in the middle of your stance. And what you would do is initially here, you would go to the top, right? We want to make sure that we're behind the ball. So at address, we want to be behind that, right? So basically, it's almost like this is going through my left ear, right? I go up to the top. I want to feel like, again, that's through my left ear. And then when I come to impact, I want to have my nose basically right on top of that as I'm coming in, right? And then I'm going to come around to a full finish. Right, so that's the nose behind the ball drill. I'll show you another drill that I actually kind of like. It's a new kind of twist on that with the blue brick. I'll show you that here in a second. But if you want to get to that drill, click the instruction tab at the top of the screen, then go to the Timecodes system, then you go to Stable Fluid Spine. I believe it's in level 1 of the Stable Fluid Spine, pretty early. It's possible it might be in level 2, but it's called I believe it's called the nose behind the stick drill. So if you just kind of look through the drills in level 1, level 2 of the Stable Fluid Spine course, you'll find the drill that I'm talking about. But let me talk about this drill as well real quick, because I think it might be a little bit of an upgrade on the nose behind the stick drill or whatever. I can't remember exactly what it's called. So again, this is the blue brick. This is training aid that Clay invented. Lots of awesome, cool drills that you can do on this. So for the drill that I'm talking about, what I would use is the inside swing setting, right? So what that does, that inside swing, now we're not doing, this isn't an inside swing drill necessarily, although it may help you to swing more from the inside. But basically what it does is it holds an alignment stick kind of like that. And that's what I want. So what I would do, and you're not going to be able to see the blue brick when I lay this down because I'm going to have to put it a little bit farther away from me. So it's going to be out of screen. But I'll push that a little bit that way. But you can see how that stick is kind of out like that. So what I would do is I would get this ball to where it's right underneath that stick, right? So it's right underneath that stick. So if I get set up here and if I get in my proper spine tilt, I should be able to look at that ball from this side of the stick, right? If I go to the top of the swing, again, I want to be able to see that ball from this side of the stick. When I come to impact, I want to be looking through the stick or a little bit behind the stick at the ball. If I'm looking at the ball from this side of the stick, I know that I'm too far forward, right? So it's a great drill to kind of help you to get into that better position. So it's the same kind of drill, except you're getting better feedback, I think, because of the stick being positioned over the ball. So just go nice and slow with it, do some reps. You can basically do that nose behind the ball drill. Just set it up like this and do it this way to where you make sure that you're kind of looking at the ball from here. So that way you're always behind it. And then I can be looking through the stick. But if I'm looking on this side of the stick, I know that my head is too far forward, right? So if you want to pick up a blue brick, if you don't have one, all you have to do is go to the resources tab. And then that takes you to the page that lists all the training aids and stuff that we recommend. And you can find the link to the blue brick on that page, as well as other training aids and stuff that we recommend. All right, let me put that away. righty. All right, so Joe M says, hi, Q. We have received our blue brick, and we are wondering how far the ball position be back from the tip of the alignment stick, the one lying on the ground. We understand the ball should be back 1 or 2 club heads back from the ball. Is it the same position for all irons, or do you have the ball back towards the angled stick as you improve? We asked this question before, and you advised your hand should be going under the stick on the downswing. Thank you. So I already answered the question. It sounds like. There you go. I already answered it. I mean, it depends on what you're going for. So I like to put it over the hands. I know that's not what Clay talks about in the videos, but or in the drill videos. He has it farther back than that. So the reason why I like it to kind of cover the hands as they're coming down is because it keeps you from kind of coming over the top a little bit. So, or not coming over, it keeps you from coming over the top, but it keeps you from not standing up out of your posture a little bit. Right. So if I set this up, I'm going to move it this way. Right. So I'll move it back this way so that way I have a little bit of room. You won't be able to see the blue brick, but you'll see the stick position, right? So really, at the bare minimum, you just want it. There isn't a set distance that it needs to go behind it, but I can just go over the pros and cons of putting it in certain places. So obviously, if it's here, it's not doing really anything. It might be a little bit of a visual help, but I can still swing over the top, right? So you can put it there as maybe like a visual help, but it's not forcing you to kind of swing from the inside. So at the very least, I want it to be kind of covering my club. So the longer the club is, the farther back it can go, right? Now, I like to put it to where it's a little bit outside my right side, to where it's right here, to where it's kind of covering my hands. So my hands can't go like this, because the way a lot of people shallow out the club is they stand up. That's what a lot of people don't realize. When you stand up out of your posture, that is a mechanism to get the club coming down on a flatter plane, right? So if I'm like this and I'm in my posture and then I stand up, look what happens, right? That club gets into a shallower position. But if I do that and I have this to where it's covering my hands, well, if I do that, my hand's going to hit the stick. So it kind of forces me to stay in my posture. And then if I'm still too steep, I'm going to hit the stick, right? So I got to get my hands in the club underneath that stick coming down. So that's why I like to set it up that way. But you can set it up like this too, and it's perfectly fine. It's just going to enable you to be able to stand up, which I would much rather someone stand up and shallow out the club than someone stay in the posture and come down steep. Because at least the person who's standing up and shallowing out the club, even though even though standing up is a bad thing to do in the swing, obviously it's not something that we want to do in the swing. But a lot of times people are doing it out of necessity because that's how they're shallowing out the club. So, I would rather someone be able to do shallow out the club with other ways, but I'd much rather just have someone who's shallowing out the club versus not shallowing out the club. Even though the golfer that's staying in their posture and coming down steep is more than likely going to struggle a lot more than the golfer that's standing up out of it and shallowing out the club. Because at least the golfer who's standing up out of it is going to have the club most likely working down on a better path down to the ball. Whereas a golfer that's staying in their posture and coming down steep, they're chopping down on it. The path is going to tend to be too far left. If they make good contact with the ball, which tends to make it, when you come down steep, it tends to make it more difficult to make good contact with the ball. But let's say you are able to make good contact with the ball. It's going to be pulls, pull hooks, slices. Most likely, if you hit a good shot, it's just going to be a big fade, right? That goes on to the target, right? And it's hard to control. So we want that path to be fairly neutral down to the ball. So if we can just swing underneath this, and not too much underneath it, but we can just get the club underneath it, more than likely you'll be in a good spot. And if you work on it to where this is covering your hand as you're coming down, then you will be able to do it to where you're not coming a bunch out of your posture to be able to do it. So that's why I recommend setting it up that way. But there's no set distance. I know you asked the question to support, and I answered it there. It sounds like I answered it before, and I just answered it again. So there's your answer. All right, keep the questions coming. We've got plenty of time left. Do not know. Somebody called me. I do not know that number. Let's see here. Miami. I don't know anyone from Miami. So my guess is that is a spam caller. All right. All right, so Scott Z says, should I work through the blue brick drills or should I be going through the Tough Speed Golf program? Or is there a way to combine them? I don't want to be working on too many things at once. Yeah, I would just do either or, right? The Tough Speed Golf system at the moment doesn't really incorporate any of the blue brick drills or any drills you can really do with the blue brick. I just talked about that nose behind the ball drill that you can incorporate the blue brick with. You can incorporate the blue brick with your Tough Speed Golf system training. A stable fluid spine, it makes it a lot easier to shallow out the club when you are when you have your spine nice and angled away. If you're getting a good turn, it makes it a lot easier to shallow out the club. So that's in the power turn course. So you can use it throughout the drills to help you with certain things. It's just that there aren't any actual videos in the Tough Speed Golf system where Clay says, get out your blue brick and do it with this. It's just you can incorporate it with it as doing it. The program that the 20-minute shallowing fix or that's the program. But the program that is going to go best with the blue brick is the 20-minute shallowing fix. And again, in that course, Clay isn't saying get out your blue brick. It didn't exist when he was making that. He uses an impact bag and has you swing from the inside of the impact bag, or you can use something similar. But the blue brick would actually work a lot better in working on, getting through drill number 2 in the 20-minute shallowing fix. So I would just do either or. You're exactly right. You don't want to be working on too many things at once. In fact, I recommend when you work on the top speed golf system, work on one piece of the top speed golf system at a time. A lot of people that try to do all the pieces at one time, it just doesn't. You can't do that. It's just not going to work. Doing that, it's too many things at one time. So pick a thing, basically pick a lane, stay in that lane. You know what I mean, and go through it. But you can incorporate the blue brick. I mean, you can just use it as you're going through the drills, or you can just work on blue brick drills and that's it. Now you may find that working through the top speed golf system, you might find some things that may make it easier. So like I talked about, getting the body angled away, that makes it so much easier to swing the club from the inside, right? If we get a bigger turn, makes it so much easier to swing the club from the inside, right? Lag isn't really going to have much to do with it. The release, there's a little bit of shaft lean stuff you can do with the brick. So like the wedge shaft lean drill, the launch angle drill, that's all a product of having a release that's more out in front, like Clay talks about in the straight line release course. But yeah, good question. Thanks. All right, so Steve D says, I hit the ball better with a slight pause at the top, but I hear a lot of instructions say to have a fast backswing. What should I be doing? So the reason why you see a lot of instructions say to have a fast backswing is because a fast backswing often leads to a faster downswing. Not always, because a lot of times when I see people try to do this, they actually end up making like a short, quick backswing. So they end up just kind of going like that. And really, that's not what you're after. You want to make a long, full backswing, but you just make it faster, right? And that helps you to create more energy and be able to possibly swing faster in the downswing. The problem with it is that it can get things a little bit out of control. When you have a faster backswing, you create more momentum for the club, and if the momentum of the club is not working in a good direction or things like that, then it can kind of throw the club off to come down in a good way in the downswing. So here's what I would say. If you make a fast backswing, as long as you're making like a long, fast backswing, and you're able to get that club to work down in a great spot, then by all means do that, because you're getting the best of everything, right? And if you're trying to hit the ball as far as you possibly can, it's probably what you need to do. I mean, you don't see any long drive golfers, right? Long drive guys that have a slow, deliberate backswing. Now, the downside to it, like I said, is that the momentum of the club can be going in the wrong direction. Then it can make you maybe start down steep and have to make compensations and things like that. And also, like I said, a lot of times when people try to have this fast backswing, they just do like a quick short swing. So it's all about, kind of finding the happy medium for you. Like, obviously there are high level golfers that don't have fast backswings, like Collin Morikawa, right? Deliberate backswing. Sung Jae Im, very deliberate, and then he goes faster, right? So there's a lot of golfers that have very deliberate backswings and hit the ball a long ways. There's golfers that have pauses at the top of their swing, right? Cam Young has a pause at the top of the swing, hits the ball absolute mile, hits it a long ways. Collin Morikawa or Hideki Matsuyama, that's what I was thinking. I'm sorry. He also pauses at the top of the swing, kind of famously. So you can obviously play some really, really good golf and hit the ball a long way, even with a pause in your swing. You just have to play around with it to find what works best for you. To me, having a very fast backswing, for me, it's good to hit the ball a long way, but I usually don't do that on the golf course. Like if I'm playing in a scramble and I'm just trying to get it out there and create as much speed as I can, and we already got a good one out there, yeah, I'll throw in a really fast backswing and try to create as much speed as possible at the ball. Maybe I'll catch it and we'll end up in the fairway or something like that, a little bit farther up. But if I'm playing for myself, it's very rare that I would do a fast backswing, unless it's just like a hole where it's wide open. If I end up in one fairway over to the right or to the left, if that's fine, I might do that in that situation. But if I need to kind of hone it in a little bit, I'm not taking a fast backswing, because for me, when I do it, it gets the momentum of the club going in a bad direction. So let me kind of explain what that kind of means. So let's say I get up here and then I get the club where maybe it's going way, way across the line. And then when I come down, it's very steep, and then I have to kind of reroute it, and it just makes it difficult. Now, if I was bringing it up and then the club's in a great position and I can come down, then that's great. But it doesn't work that way for me. It might work that way for you. So it's just something. There's no right or wrong answer here. It's really just about finding what works best for you. A good way to kind of answer questions like this, some instructors say this, some instructors say that, blah, blah. I don't typically live in the world of absolutes. There's not that many universal truths in golf. That's kind of what's awesome about it. Part of the reason is that there's lots of ways to swing the golf club, right? All the ball cares about is that the face is square. You're hitting it in the middle of the face. Your club path is fairly neutral down to the ball, and you're hitting the ground in the right spot, right? That's really what the ball cares about. If you have a little bit of speed behind that, then that's even better, right? That's what the ball cares about. It doesn't really care how you get to that point. It just cares that if those things are happening, then you're going to be in good shape. So that's kind of what the top speed golf system is about. It's the universal truths. It's all the things that we see, that Clay sees the absolute best players do, right? But if you ever have a thing where some instructors say this, some instructors say that, and blah, blah, usually in that situation, it's usually where, there's elite golfers that do what they're saying, and there's elite golfers that do what the other guy's saying. There's no absolute universal truth there. You can look at the LIV Tour, the PGA Tour, the LPGA Tour, Champions Tour. You can look at all these tours, and you're going to see deliberate backswings. You're going to see fast backswings. You're going to see backswings with pauses. You're going to see a lot of different things. So that just goes to show you that it's not like you have to have a pause in your swing to be good, right? You can have a pause. You can have a quick swing and be good. Jon Rahm has a very quick swing, kind of a short, quick swing. Obviously works really well for him. So there's lots of ways to do it. So that's the way that I would look at it. All right. So Steve R says, I've been having a hard time coming out of my posture and hitting the ball thin. I'm 82 years old and in good condition, but I need some drills to solve this issue. Thanks. So typically when you're hitting the ball thin, it's because the bottom of your swing just isn't in the right place. So you might be pulling up and out of it, because if you were to kind of stay down and through it, you'd probably chunk it, right? So you need to get the bottom of your swing arc to be more forward and more in front of the ball. Typically, it's going to be about 3 or 4 inches in front of the ball. So the first thing that I would do is I would look at your ball position, right? So ball position, I find that a lot of golfers, especially as we get older and we lose club head speed. You mentioned 82 years old. I imagine, I don't know how long you've been playing golf, but you're probably not swinging the club as fast as you were when you first started, right? I know I'm not. At almost 40 years old, I'm definitely not swinging it as fast as I was when I was in my early 20s, right? So, you know, we lose some speed as we get older. So a lot of times when that happens, we tend to not hit the ball as high because you're not giving the ball as much energy. So then this cycle starts where you start pushing the ball forward in your stance, right, in an effort to try to get the ball to go higher. But the problem with that is the more we put the ball forward in the stance, the harder it is to get that downward angle of attack on the ball. We need to hit down on the ball, right? So if you imagine, if my ball position's right there, then I can't hit down and through that ball, right? So I need to have it where it's more in the middle of my stance, even for the longer clubs, even for a hybrid or a fairway wood or a long iron, right? So we got to hit down and through those balls. Now you might have some lies where you can hit up on the ball because the ball is like sitting on the grass, like it's on a tee. In that situation, you might have a little bit of room to hit up on the ball, but generally the ground is in the way and you're not going to be able to hit up on the ball. So you can't really have the ball position that far forward. So that's why I recommend a middle-ish ball position for most shots that are off the ground. So that'd be kind of the first thing. The next thing would be kind of looking at how your hips are moving, right? So if you're sliding your hips, right, you're sliding your hips to your right and you're kind of staying there, then you can't really get the low point of your swing more forward. So a very simple drill would be the chair drill. Set up with this chair, have it just touching your hip at address when you're in your address position. And then when you start the backswing, you move that pressure to the trail foot right away. So you kind of nudge the chair when you do that. Then you're going to be on the chair, on the chair, on the chair. And then as you get to the top, you're actually going to push away from the chair a little bit. And you're going to create a small gap, an inch or two gap between your hip and that chair at the top of the swing with your momentum moving forward. And you're going to keep that momentum moving forward down into impact. So very, very simple drill that I would recommend doing. Those are really kind of the two main things that I see with golfers. If you want more drills, if those don't kind of cover exactly what's going on there, then check out my my video on ball first contact, because that's really what thin shots are. You're just really not hitting the ground much at all, right? So let me. Perfect. I got it right here. So what I'm going to do, Steve, is I'm going to, in the chat, I'm going to put a link to that video with the rest of the drills. Those are kind of the first two things that I talk about there, but those would be the rest of the drills that I would, recommend working on. And if you are struggling with distance, you've lost some distance, I'd highly recommend our 20-minute distance fix. It's a great course to help you to create more club head speed and be able to get that distance and height that you may have lost, over the years. So if you want to get to that course, click the instruction tab and then click the Top Speed Golf System from there. All right, keep the questions coming. Says, do you have any recommendations for an indoor mat? Thinking 5x5 to use for hitting into a net. Been using a strip, and it's time for an update. The one that we use in the shop is Country Club Elite. Those are very good mats. I definitely recommend those. I have one in my garage that I've had for years. I can't remember what the brand of it is, but I got it on Amazon. I don't even know that it is necessarily a brand or anything. And it's fine. It's not as good as the one that we have in the shop. I think the one that we have in the shop is like a $500-600 mat, something like that. And really, I would get like a 5x4. 5x5 doesn't, the extra foot doesn't really do anything unless you're just a really large person, really tall and have a wide stance and you stand far away from the ball. You might need a little bit more space, but most likely a 4x5 is going to work just fine. That's the typical full size mat. So there's that. There's also the divot board is also a good option. Yeah, 6'3", you might want to consider 5x5. A good way to know is just kind of go to a driving range, or you could kind of use some tape on the ground and like kind of mark a 5x5 area, and then you can go from there. I haven't tested. I mean, I've used a lot of different mats, but I don't know exactly what brands they are and things like that. There's lots of different mats out there. There are, YouTube channels and things out there that test this stuff, that are experts and simulators and all that kind of stuff that go with it. That's probably where I would go for that information. Like I said, I haven't tested all the golf mats, and I'm more into the actual golf instruction side of it. So I'm probably not the best person to ask about what mat to use, but I do know Country Club Elite mats are great. We've had that mat in the office for a long time, and it's held up really great with a lot of use, quite a bit of use. Um, so it really just depends on how much money you want to spend. The mat that I got in my garage that I've used a fair amount it's like $150 to $200 mat. And the mat that the Country Club Elite mat that we have in the office is like a $500-600 mat. Now there's definitely a quality difference. The mat at the office is a lot better, but the mat that here is fine. That's here is fine. So I would just kind of look at how much money you want to spend. I think for the most part, you're going to get what you pay for. If you spend more money, you're going to get a higher quality, more durable mat, most likely. If you spend less money, you're probably going to get a little less quality. But you just kind of have to weigh the options, right? But I don't know what the best bang for your buck one is. One of those simulator type channels, might be the best thing to check out, because I'm sure they review probably a lot of mats and stuff like that, and they may have some better information for you. All right, so Charlie says, hi Q, the wedge impact position on the blue brick is good for full swings, but for the shorter 20 to 30 yard pitches, I prefer a flatter wrist. Your thoughts? Okay, then do that. That's fine. I don't know. You're looking for me to talk you out of it. I don't understand the question. If you hit the ball better from a different thing, then do that. Do what you prefer. All right, we got about 20 minutes left if we have any more questions. All right, we got a question here from Larry L. Says, can playing the ball more back in your stance help create better ball than turf contact? Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things that I look at first when I have a student that is struggling with making ball first contact. One of the first things that I look at is ball position. Typically, I said this earlier in the office hours, but typically, what I see with a lot of golfers, especially with longer clubs, the longer irons, hybrids, fairway woods, that ball position moves forward. So let's try to understand what exactly needs to happen at impact to be able to get good, clean contact with the ball. Well, we need to have a downward motion of the club into the ball. So what that means is that the bottom of our swing arc, right? Our clubs comes down on an arc. You can almost like use this hula hoop here and imagine my club, my hand is the club face, and it's coming down on an arc, right? It reaches the bottom of the arc and then it works back up. So it needs to be working downward when it gets to the ball, because if it's working level, then if I hit any part of the ground, I'm going to be hitting the ground back here, right? If I hit up on it, the ground's in the way, so I'm going to chunk it. So if my low point is at the ball or before the ball, I'm not going to be able to make good contact with the ball unless the ball is like sitting up on the grass like it's on a tee. I might have a little bit of space in there to be able to hit up on it, or to be able to have my club bottom out at the ball. But in most situations, you need to hit down and through the ball. So that can be easily altered or improved by moving the ball position more back. Peter Costas, a little while ago, he started a podcast, and he had some videos, I think, that I saw, and he had some rules, like 6 or 7 rules. And one of the rules that I liked, I think I liked all the rules, to be honest. I thought they were great feedback. So Peter Costas is his name. I don't know exactly. He used to be on CBS. He used to do the Konica Minolta swing vision, and he would do like the slow motion swing analysis. I'm sure if you've watched any, PGA in the last 20 years, you've probably seen him on broadcasts and stuff like that. But I'm guessing you just go to like his Instagram account or something like that. You'll find these, what I'm talking about. But one thing that he said is ball back before ball forward, right? And the reason is that if we have the ball forward, it just makes it more difficult to make that ball first contact. It's harder to get the bottom of the swing more forward, right? And this also can cause a lot of over the top swings, because if my ball position is really far forward, right? If I don't get my body really far forward to be able to hit it, then what I might do is I might come over the top in order to get my ground contact to happen more toward the ball, right? So imagine this. I don't know if anybody's baseball people out there, but imagine I'm standing in the batter's box, right? Center field is that way, right? So imagine if I swing this club in the direction of first base. Where's my club going to bottom out? It's going to bottom out back here, right? More in front of my trail foot. If I swing in the direction of third base, and you can do this at home. If I swing in the direction of third base, where's my club bottoming out? It's bottoming out up here, right? So if my ball position is really far forward, then I might come over the top as a way to not chunk it, right? So moving that ball position not only helps with getting the ground contact to happen closer to where the ball is, but it also will likely enable you to more easily shallow out the club and swing from the inside if that is something that you're struggling with. So generally, for pretty much any shot that is off the ground, I like roughly about the middle of the stance. If you still struggle, you can put it more back in your stance. I think a lot of people are afraid to do things in their swing that are a little bit unconventional, because maybe they don't see the better players doing it, but everybody's a little bit different, right? The ball doesn't care where it is in your stance. It doesn't care about if your left arm's straight. It doesn't care what your knees are doing. It doesn't care what your head's doing. All the ball cares about is impact, that moment of truth. That's all it cares about. It cares about if you're hitting the ground in relationship to the ball in the right spot. It cares that the face is square. It cares if you're hitting it in the middle of the face. It cares about the path that the club is coming down to the ball. And it cares about the speed that you are providing. That's really what it cares about the most, right? So put the ball in a position that allows you to be the most successful. If you're struggling with chunks and thins and over the tops, and you have that ball forward, try putting it a little bit more back in your stance. Try to put it in the middle in your stance, and you'll likely see an improvement. So yes, absolutely. Here's the downside of putting it back in your stance. You don't have as much time to get the face square, right? So you might find that when you put the ball in the middle of your stance, if you're used to it being more forward, that the face might be a little bit open. So if you run into that, use a little bit of a stronger grip. Just get your lead hand a little bit more on top, your trail hand a little bit more under, and make the same swing. The face will be more closed or less open, right? And just play around with that to find the right mix of what you need. But it's really a very simple adjustment in your setup. Really, there aren't, a lot of things can be fixed with the setup, and that's great because changing something in your setup is very easy typically, right? Changing things dynamically going on in your swing, it's not as easy, right? So if you just take a little bit of a stronger grip, put that ball more in the middle of your stance, I imagine a lot of people would greatly improve their ball striking just by making those tweaks to their setup. All right. So Tom C says, my drives usually go straight or have a slight draw, and some holes call for a cut. I have a strong grip. Could I just slightly weaken it to make it cut? Possibly, yeah. So in order for the ball to cut, you need to have the face open to your path. So if you're normally hitting draws, what's happening is your face is a little bit closed to your path, right? So you need to get the face open to the path. And I actually strongly encourage you to practice hitting both draws and fades because it helps you to stay fairly neutral. If all you do all the time is just hit draws in your practice and on the course, then over time, as you evolve and as we adapt and we're human, things will change, right? A lot of times what will happen is your path may end up getting too much from the inside, and then you end up having to get the face really close to the path to get the ball to go toward the target. And then you kind of end up with that two-way miss where it's either a push out to the right or it's an overdraw, or you get that perfect amount of kind of heavy draw. It's tough to be very good or consistent when you do that, right? So ideally what we would have is our face and path be relatively neutral, a couple degrees here and there, right? So to get to where we're always staying fairly neutral, what we would want to do is practice swinging to the left with an open face and swinging to the right with a closed face. And that will help you to stay more consistently dialed on where zero is. So yeah, weakening the grip can certainly help with that. Feeling like you're holding that face open more through contact can certainly help with that. So yeah, you can play around with it to see what works best for you to hit a cut. But what needs to happen in order to get the ball to fade is the face needs to be open to the path. So weakening the grip can certainly help with that. It may even just do the trick. And or feeling like you're holding that face instead of letting that face kind of turn over, feeling like you're holding that face, almost like you're fanning that face open through contact to get the ball to fade. That's another way you can kind of do it as well. Basically, the way that I like to hit a fade, so I'm a natural drawer of the ball. This is the way that I like to do it. Again, this is personal to me. May not be the best way for you or anybody else, but this is the way that I do it. So I'm a natural drawer of the golf ball. So if I set up with my feet square, I'm going to swing a little bit from the inside with a little bit of a closed face. That's what comes very natural to me. It's a very bread and butter kind of shot for me. So when I'm hitting a fade, what I'm going to do is I'm going to angle my body to the left a little bit to get my path a little bit to the left. And then what I like to do is I just like to feel like I'm holding that face open and pointed toward the target as I'm coming through contact, and instead of letting it kind of roll over, I just feel like, okay, my path, my body's aimed to the left. So when I come through, I just want to feel like I'm kind of holding that face open, and that's going to get that ball to fade for me. So that's the way I do it. It works. It works for me. Will it work for you? There's one way to find out, right? You can also, you can set up a little bit like this and just use a weaker grip and kind of have your hands come through the same way. You can set up square, swing left with an open face, right? So there's lots of ways to do it. Again, the ball doesn't care about anything but what happens at impact. So the way that you set up and do it, the ball doesn't care about. It only cares that you're actually doing what needs to happen in order to hit a fade. All right, got about a few minutes left here. If we have any more questions, thanks everybody for joining today. got a couple minutes left. If we have any more last-minute questions, if not, no worries. We'll be back here Monday to answer more questions if you got them. All right, we'll go ahead and wrap it up right there. Thanks, everybody, for joining. We'll be back here Monday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Everybody have a great rest of your day and weekend, and we will see you next time.